Hello, and thank you for joining us on The Village Live. We are so glad that you've tuned in. Today's going to be incredible, and you're not going to want to miss it, so you hang with me. But before we get to the interview, which is the highlight, I just want to say a quick word. We get responses from time to time where people say, how can I support what you're doing? And I'm terrible at keeping people posted on this, so I just want to say at the beginning of this episode and then at the end of this episode, if you'd like to help us, we are trying our very best to showcase some of the people that are a part of our Village family. We're so proud to have a church like the Village that is diverse and inclusive and vibrant and alive and old and young and really, really cool. And along with that, we're trying to present some of the best teachings in progressive Christian thought as best we can, and you make it possible. So if you want to help support us, then this will go 100% to equipment that we need. It'll go to taking care of Neil Campbell, who does an incredible job making sure that everything flows the way it should flow, that we're online, that we're connecting the way we need to connect. And so we really would appreciate you being a support partner with us. And so the information is on the screen. If you can help us, please do. And you're going to love this interview. And I'm going to try to remember to do this at the end again one more time. Shikera Thomason is a diverse woman. She has worked in a human service capacity for almost 25 years, including as a certified educator, a social worker, a tutor, and alongside epidemiologists to ensure physical wellness among Georgia's citizens. Shikera enjoys singing, writing, playing her various musical instruments. She makes jewelry that's just stunning, you'll see today, speaking wisdom to others through her character, Sister May the Truth Be Told, or Sister May for short, and I love that character. We're going to talk about that. Speaking motivationally, especially on her podcast, Be a Bridge. Shikera loves spending time with her family, friends, and her church. She never meets a stranger, lights up a room better than almost anybody I've ever met. She enjoys cooking creative, healthy dishes, and in the last 9 years, Shikera has pursued her own healing intentionally, and she enjoys encouraging others to pursue healing and truth. She resides in Villa Rica, which is about 45 minutes west of Atlanta. She's one of the people that travels probably the farthest to get to the Village each day, and she has the sweetest, most supportive wife, one of my favorite people. If you ever hear an incredible laugh in our service, it's 100% April. She's got the greatest laugh in the world. But Shikera, welcome. I am so honored that you are here. We're excited to have you on the podcast. And I just want to jump right in and just get started. Can you tell me a little bit about your diverse career background?
Yeah, sure. So I was in my mid-20s. I was working at I was working as a substitute teacher, and I had this woman in my life that at that point she was like a mentor. And she's like, you're so intelligent. You've been to college. What are you going to do with your life? And I told her I didn't know. And she's like, well, you need stability. And I was like, you know how young people took it personal. But then after I reflected, I was like, she's right. And I ended up going to a church. I don't know if y'all have had moments like this. I went to a church in Alabama, and I went with a friend. And while I was there that night, I kept hearing like God say, go touch this lady on the back of her shoulder. And I was like, I don't know that lady. I'm not going to touch her. And I heard that same message like 3 times. I went to the lady. She turned around, had this enormous smile, right? And she says to me, she said, what is your calling? And I said, singing. And she goes, no, that's a gifting. The very thing you're running away from is your calling. And I started crying because the only thing at that point in my life I had been running from doing was teaching school. I just was like, I'm not going to be a teacher. And I said teaching to that lady, and tears just strode in my face. And pretty much the next day, I went to the University of West Georgia, and this was in 2002, and I enrolled to begin taking classes that summer to start my path to being an educator. And at that point, I had subbed, and then I became a paraprofessional, and then here I am with a college degree going back to school to be an educator. So that was the first thing. And I taught school for 11 years, special educator, taught children with various exceptionalities. And then somewhere around 2015, I knew I couldn't do it. And it wasn't because I didn't love the kids. It was just like, I just knew instinctually inside myself it was time for a change. And so I told my mom and my spouse, please don't talk to me for 3 weeks. I need to pray and be quiet. And in that time, it's like I knew I needed to go back to school because I didn't want people to think the only thing I was capable of doing is teaching. And so I went back to grad school and got my master's in human services. And then from there, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but here goes. And so like I had difficulty at first getting a job, Pastor. I ain't gonna lie to you. And so I filled in doing stuff like being a camp counselor and tutoring just to have income. And then the first job I got after my master's was I worked for Georgia's Workforce Development Program. I helped young people from the age of 14 to 24 years old to gain life skills, finish their high school equivalents, teach them how to prepare for college, acquiring a bank account, just learning how to be established in life. And we did that until the grant ran out. And then once the grant ran out, a job I didn't even want with public health, but yet I applied for was where I landed next. And then since the beginning of the pandemic, I've worked with about 5 epidemiologists, reaching out to people with not only COVID, but with other notifiable illnesses, just to make sure that they're getting the care they need. And that's how my diverse career took place.
It's very diverse. It's exciting to me because everything you do seems to be really closely connected to helping people. It seems like you have maybe as close a connection to helping people as almost anybody in our church, at least with your career choices. And I think it's interesting, epidemiologist, that's a word I didn't even know, I don't think, before 2020. And now to think that we have you and 2 others in our church that work very closely in that field, 2 epidemiologists, and then you who helps make the work of the epidemiologist make sense. And so that's so cool. What to you would be some of those most rewarding things in your career, which has been diverse, but in your career, what stands out as 1 or 2 things where you say, yeah, it's those things that were the most rewarding that really made me proud or happy to be doing what I'm doing? Anything jump out?
Yeah, so at the heart of everything I do, I still love teaching people. And for all the years that I was an active educator, when a student comes back and they're an adult and they want me to come to their wedding or they want me to come to the baby dedication or, those kind of things. Like last week, I had a student invite me to her baby shower. And it's just like, it's fascinating because when I taught, I didn't just teach the instruction. I would give them life lessons and, you can do this. You're not lesser. You got to have a good life, but you got to believe you're going to have a good life. And so to see them come back and say, I remember what you said to me and I want you to come to my baby shower, or I want you to come to my wedding, or I want you to come to my housewarming. Those things stand out for me. With my current job, some of the things that have stood out for me is, like, I remember particular one lady I talked to, she didn't want to talk to me. The lady had just been diagnosed with cancer. She had already isolated herself because of her cancer and her immune system being compromised. And she was angry, as rightfully so, having that kind of diagnosis and then being told you've got another illness on top of it. I just kept talking to her. And she wanted to know why. Why are you talking to me? And I said, because it seems to me you need someone to talk to. You need a friend. And by the end of that call, that one was like, will you keep my number? I would love for you to check in on me. And I just tried to meet her in the midst of where she was.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. You impressed me in so many ways. One, like, I have this incredible love and respect for my mom and dad. I feel like I learned so much. And you have one of those relationships with your mom. Mm-hmm. And did you know early on that you were going to be someone who's going to be helping people? Has that always been like a family characteristic or trait? Or
I mean, my mom always told us that my mom's a retired nurse, and my mom always motivated my siblings and I to be the difference.
yeah,
And we all have careers where we serve. That's the premise of what we do. We serve others. And I never knew that in watching my mother be a nurse and sometimes being in the back room and their lunchroom while she was at work so that I wouldn't have to be home alone, that I would end up being in the same organization that she worked for, public health, for 22 years. But she just told us to serve, and she said that God served, and if we want to reflect God, we serve.
yeah, that's good. That's good. It's funny that that's not the go-to that so many have when they think about following Jesus. They think about some moral absolutes or some rules and laws and all of this, but he said the Son of Man came to serve and to give himself. And so it seems like you guys were tapped into something really profound
Yeah,
at the very beginning.
right.
So I know church was big for you in your entire childhood. Has church just been a part of your
Oh
life?
yeah, it has.
When did it become for you real? When did it was there a time where you say, I enjoyed it, but it felt like it really became real for me, that God was real and I was really wanting to live a Christ honoring life? Is that
God has always felt real to me. My mother told me that and like you said, I'm close to my mother. When I was little, my mother said she dedicated my life to God before I was ever born. And she would talk to us about like the Bible, but she would also talk to us about the principles we should be living in our lives, and she tried to make it simple language. So God was always been important. And one of the first things that really made me feel the most connected to God was singing. I would sing. My mother and I would clean the house and sing. We'd ride to town and sing church song, all kind of church songs. And that's now, even when I may not pick up a Bible or a devotional, I always can connect to God through music.
one of the great blessings to me has been those times after church? It hadn't been a lot of times, but a few times when you will let the crowds die down a little bit, and then you'll pull me over to the side and you'll say, do you know such and such a song? And I'll say, no, I don't know that. And then you will say that message, this fits what you were talking about, and you'll sing it. And then I'll just go and look that song up and I'll put it in my library so I can have it. But I love that you're a wealth of knowledge of great gospel songs. You seem like you know a lot of music.
I do.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
How about the arts? You are, like, even your jewelry is always stunning. It's stunning. Was that a part of little girl Shikera growing up, or was it something you came to later?
So I didn't make jewelry until I was in grad school. It was a way for me to stay calm as I had to read all these extensive passages, to do essays and research papers and capstones. But I've always loved jewelry. Like, I was the little kid who wanted, flashy earrings and long necklaces. And my mother would say, "Now, what are you going to do when you get on the playground? Because I don't want you to get hurt with the jewelry." And I was like, I won't get hurt. And I would make sure that I did something, even if it meant tucking my necklace inside my shirt, so that my mother would say, "That's it, no more long necklace." I just felt like it would be, "That's it, no more long necklaces." But I've always loved jewelry. And somewhere in the midst of grad school, I started by making bracelets, and then it got to be like, well, maybe I can make earrings, or maybe I can make a necklace, and it's just so relaxing.
Is it therapeutic? So it's something that you do.
Yeah, it's very cathartic. It is.
That's very
cathartic.
Have you ever taught people how to do it? Is that?
I have not. Another member in our church, our minister, he actually told me at one point he wanted me to come, and we've never like sat down and arranged the time for me to come, but he thought it would be cool to teach some of the students at his school how to make jewelry, but we just haven't met up to do that.
That is so awesome. And another thing is just the artsy. I love the way the glasses, you just your presence is very artistic, and I love that. Neil with his pink glasses,
Yeah.
and you with your rainbow glasses.
Yes.
It's really cool.
Thank you. My glasses are actually they actually are purposeful. I call myself a very intentional person.
Right.
And so when I got to the place where I was really okay with me, I decided to order these glasses. And the first time that really resonated that these glasses speak beyond their bright and vivid was my wife and I were on our way to vacation in the Carolinas, and a young man came up to me at a restaurant and he said, "Thank you for wearing those because I know I'm safe with you."
That's great. That's very
Yeah, yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
I wish I were a little more that way. I'm a little more I don't know if shy. Probably shy is not the right word, but I admire when I see you wearing something that's like a big statement kind of a thing, like those glasses. I think in my alter reality, I would be that. I would be able to do that. And instead I wear just kind of very conservative stuff, but I like that very much. I want to find out about Sister May the Truth Be Told. Sister, am I saying right? Sister May the Truth Be
Sister
Told.
May the Truth Be Told, yes.
Sister May the Truth Be Told. Where did that come from? How's that worked in your life?
So my mother says I robbed her of it. It's funny. So one of her friends told her that she acted like a mother of the older mother of the church years ago. And he said, "I know with you, you always gonna be like, truth be told, truth be told." And so my mom said I should have a character about that. And so then I was like, she's not doing anything with it. I'm gonna
That's right. Steal
do
from
so.
your
I'm
mama
gonna.
if you have to. That's right.
So I don't like saying I stole from her because she said she was gonna be Mother May the Truth I Be Told because of her age. So I decided to be Sister May the Truth Be Told, and I started like asking her could I borrow her wigs,
Right.
and I put on her wigs, and and I turn on the camera on my cell phone, and I would change my voice and be like, "Hey babies, this is Sister May. I come by to tell y'all a little bit about what you need to be looking out for today." And
Awesome.
and people just comment back to me, "I'm falling out laughing that
Yeah.
you got this gray wig on and you changed your voice, and then you're gonna give us wisdom in the midst of making us laugh." And it was just fun, and we share a lot of things that like my mom and my aunts have said over the years because I don't want them to die out just because
Oh,
people
yeah.
go away. So it's fun, but it's also like a way to enhance people.
Can I tell you something that I have learned over the last, I don't know, as a young pastor, I think I realized so much of church is geared to everybody listening to the pastor, listening to what the pastor has to say, listen to what the pastor has to say. And it took me a while to realize that that was not nearly as cool and interesting and fun and life-giving as listening to stories around the people who were in the church. And I just feel like I'm the most fortunate guy in the world because people say, "How do you have people that are so interesting at your church?" It's like, I don't know. But you are. It's like, that's incredible that you do those kind of things and you have that kind of creativity going on and you're able to just put it out there. I'm very, very impressed. You never meet a stranger, by the way. You just always seem are you shy at all? Do you have a...
No, I don't. My mother said that. So she would be worried back in the 80s. And she said, because she said, you were just like my child that you would hug. It's like, I thought you were going to be a tree hugger because you would just walk up to everybody and hug them and, "Hey, what's your name? What do you do and where you from? I like your outfit." She said, you were that kid. And I'm like, oh, I should hurry up, go over there and get my child.
Right.
I've just...
My son Ethan was that way. People would come to me and they'd say, "Are y'all giving him enough love at home? He seems like he just wants to hug and love everybody." It's like, we're hugging him to death. He just wants to hug everybody.
Just love people.
And you just love people too.
Just love people, yeah.
So you and your wife are one of the great couples. I'm surrounded by great couples. And I put y'all right up there at tops of the tops. Y'all are awesome. Y'all met in a choir at Mount Perrin Church of God. Am I remembering the story kind of right?
Not close.
Close.
So we actually met at a retreat.
Retreat. Okay.
Yeah, we were at a retreat in a little town called Homer, Georgia. It's going up like it's in the middle of nowhere. He was way past Covington.
I've never heard.
And so we were there for a retreat of women. And when I first met her, I was like, because the person introduced me was like, you know, she's been married before, she's divorced. And I was like, oh, here's another white woman, true story. Here's another white woman's been married. She's going to get another man and I'm going to end up singing at the wedding.
Right.
And I was like, no. And then I laugh now because the joke's on me because I sung to April as I walked down the aisle.
Are you serious?
At our wedding.
You did sing.
And so yeah, we met at the retreat. I really didn't pay her a whole lot of attention that weekend. And then I didn't know we were at the same church. I was in the choir.
Right.
She sat on the front row of the sanctuary, and I never had seen her.
Right.
Because we were always looking at the teleprompter and the director of the choir, so I didn't scan the audience, you know. And then, yeah, she just kept showing up. And at the time, she was a parking lot attendant at this church because it's like it's a mega church, yeah.
Churches, yeah.
And it seemed like she was always the parking lot attendant that was scheduled to be over the part where I parked at.
Right.
And so every time I get out of the car, she's going, "Hey, good to see you." I'm going, "Hey." I wasn't shy. I was kind of like, I told you, I'm not dealing with this again, God, you know. And but the thing that really got my attention was her kindness and her generosity.
She is good. I can tell she's a good soul.
Yeah, she was always so kind and genuinely, and I could tell she was being genuinely kind. And but one Sunday, what she said was, "I bought a CD from a church I used to go to, and I bought it for you." And I said, "Okay." She said, "I don't have it tonight. I'll bring it the next time I know you're going to be here." I said, "Okay." And she did, and I unwrapped it, and I put it in the deck, and I cut the music off, and I said, okay, there's something about this woman. Nobody other than my aunt and my mom has ever bought me a gospel CD. Right. There's something different. And I was like, maybe I should give her a chance, God. And we just started being friends. Yeah. Friends.
Now, let me ask you this, and I probably should have asked this first. When did you kind of begin thinking about orientation and thinking maybe I am a part of the Q plus world? When did you?
Oh man. So that was way back in college. I was like 19-ish, and I knew like I had never dated a woman or, you know, so never considered myself that way until at this certain point in college. I just knew I was at this point. I'll be honest with you. I was angry with men because I dated a lot of men, and
I've heard that from a lot of people. We don't have a good track record on that.
I dated a lot of men who was just felt like it was all about sexual intimacy.
Right.
And I was just like, I'm over it. And I'll be honest with you, I had been assaulted too. So then I went through a period where I was just like, I definitely don't want to do with men. I don't want nothing to do anything with anybody, not men, not women, not anybody. And but then I'm gonna make you laugh. I got invited to this somebody said, come to gala. And I thought they meant gala.
Right.
And big difference. I was 19. Blame it on being 19. And so I was living on campus. I got all dressed up. I had nice little ruffly blouses and some slacks and some stacked heels, and put all my makeup on. And I walked across campus to this building for this gala, right? And as I approached the door, and I'm like, I don't hear any fancy music. And when I turned the corner, I was like, nobody's dressed up but me. There's no hors d'oeuvres. There's none of the things that I would expect at a gala. No fancy tablecloths. And they were like, welcome to gala. I'm like, and then it was like, we're the Gay and Lesbian Association of the University of West Georgia.
That's awesome.
And I was like looking across the room at the woman who invited me, like, you didn't tell me it was for y'all, because I didn't consider myself that at that time. Right. And then, you know, of course, like probably like a lot of people in our community, I started, you know, oh, that was cute, but I don't know if I could do that because I'm a church girl, you know, and church girls don't.
So there really was that wrestling for a while.
Oh yeah, there was that wrestling for a long while. I guess I don't know if you've heard the term undercover brother.
No.
Okay. So undercover brother is a person who is heterosexual passing. Okay. So it's a man that may have a girlfriend or a wife, but he also knows that he is drawn to men. So I was kind of like the opposite. I was the undercover sister.
Right.
Everybody thought, oh, she's finally got a cute boyfriend, because I always been fashionable.
Right,
You know,
right.
I love everything glammy about a girl, you know.
Right.
But it was kind of like, I can't tell them,
Right.
you know. So it's like, I won't tell them. I'm just gonna sneak around
Right.
and do this. And I did for a very long time. And then, like in regular old-fashioned conservative church terms, I felt convicted at some point.
Now, were you feeling convicted because you were thinking being on the gay side was sinful? So you're thinking I'm doing something that's displeasing to
Oh,
God?
yeah,
That's what you
yeah.
were-
I mean, I had pastors that straight up told you going to hell, because
Okay.
that's one of the things that's gonna, it's an abomination and you're going to hell. And I remember the one of the first people I dated, I told her, because we were totally, as the old church would say, unyoked, unequally yoked. She didn't believe in anything, and I still knew I was a Christian believer, believing in Christ. And I told her, I said, we can't be together. One, my pastor keeps yelling about this from the pulpit, and I feel like he's looking dead at me. And two, you don't believe in anything. Like, what kind of relationship and life will we have? And we don't have any kind of belief system that is similar. And I remember her crying. I mean, this woman cried. And I was just like, in my mind, I'm going, I got to do what I need to do, you know? And I went through a period after that where my mother laughed and said she thought I was going to be like, become one with the carpet at the altars, because I really thought if I prayed long enough, God would convert me to be heterosexual.
Right.
And it just didn't happen. And I'm thankful that I met a professor who became like a mentor for me at West Georgia while I was being a teacher, going to school to be a teacher. And she led me into beginning to accept myself.
fantastic.
And she said, you need to research things for yourself. You need to know who you are for yourself, not because what anybody else will say. And so I started reading things like Stranger at the Gate by Mel White.
Yeah, Mel White was, I was thinking about him this morning. Mel White was huge to me.
Yeah.
And I don't hear his name talked about much anymore. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
He was probably some of the first books I read were Mel White books.
Yeah.
So I would love to meet that teacher one day. What a hero.
Yeah.
Or shero. That is an incredible thing.
Yeah.
So did she point you to Mel, or she just pointed you and said, find it, and then you
Oh,
found it?
no. She gave me a list of books.
So she knew.
She knew. And then she actually brought me back to a book of a professor that had been the advisor of the gala. And I never spoke to him. And all the times I went to the meetings, and he has a book that's called What the Bible really says about homosexuality. And his name's Daniel A. Hemeniak. And I read the first edition of that book, and he is a former Catholic priest, but he talked about all these things that conservative churches concocted to make gay people in the LGBT plus community feel like you're inadequate, you're not equal, and you need to stay in this box. And but this is what this word really means. This is what this phrase, like looking at the word abomination and really knowing that they were temple prostitutes and knowing the Greek and the Hebrew behind it. And so in that process, the thing that really got me, Pastor Ray, was Jesus never said one thing about homosexuality. Right. And I was like, if Jesus doesn't condemn me, doesn't matter who else doesn't like the way I am. I got to live for me. I can't live my life for everybody else, or I'm going to be miserable.
I always admire you for so many things, but one of the things is you are really well read. When I think about you, and I think about Alejandro, and I think about not everybody is drawn to the books and to reading deeply about a subject, but you are one of those people that has been. And I just tip my hat to you, because I think some people aren't wired maybe that way. Mm-hmm. And so but I can see you reading and wrestling with what you're reading and saying, God is this right. And now I know you and your mom are as thick as two people can be. Took her a minute to kind of see that you were following Christ and that it was a God-honoring thing. She got it right away?
No, so she never doubted my faith, but I think from her own perspective, that like there's that thread of uncomfortability, not because she thought I was wrong, but because of indoctrination. Even in the Black church, and I think that Christian A. Smith said something like the Black church, the spirit is what comes from our African ancestry, but the indoctrination and the theology is actually from the conservative white evangelical.
It is.
And so like,
I'm glad you like Christian. He's one of my favorites.
He's awesome.
He is awesome.
And so like, so growing up under, pastors who say, this is wrong, and people are meant to like marry and procreate. I think that was the part Mama had a problem with for a little bit, but not long. And she never. It's funny. She knew that I was gay before I ever came out that I'm a lesbian.
I hear moms know that
she
stuff.
does. And she said, when I finally told her that, hey, I'm in love with April. She's not just my best friend. I'm in love with April. She's my girlfriend, and I hope one day she's my spouse. My mom laughed and said, oh, we've all known that you were a lesbian for over 10 years.
Wow.
And
she's sharp.
Yeah. And at that point I'm like this, shocked. And I was like, who's all of us know? And she begins to tell me my sister, my brother, my uncle that had lived in Ohio, my aunt, and then her husband down the road. And I mean, all these family members. And I'm like, y'all all knew and y'all didn't say anything to me. And she's like, it wasn't our place to call you out. It was our place to love you and wait until you were comfortable and ready to speak your truth.
Good mom. I know I don't know her well, but she is somebody that's a hero to me.
Oh, she's my hero too. Yeah, she's right.
She just has it together and has always been this wise voice.
Yeah, she's a sage.
That is so good. Yeah. I love you and April's relationship, and it's just beautiful that how long have y'all been together?
So June the 11th, we've been together 14 years. We've been legally married almost 9. But yeah, we've been together since June the 11th of 2010.
My gosh.
And we actually were, like I said, we were friends at first. We started hanging out early of 2010, doing things like going to Athens to the Georgia game and going to the botanical gardens, going out for coffee. And then it got to where we started, I'll drive to your house this weekend. And we were like 2 kids having sleepovers, going to Six Flags. And then it just, one thing led to another. And she left Cobb County and moved in with us down in Carroll County. And then we launched out into our own a few years ago. And
if I can say just a word, and I said it last week, I think when I was talking to Matt, to anybody that maybe is watching and maybe you come from a different background or maybe you're even a pastor, and in your mind you just cannot, you've got these 6 verses in your brain and you think that these 6 verses kind of is God's total sum wisdom on a subject that was not even something that they understood when the Bible writers were writing. They did not understand same-sex orientation. I wish I could say to you that you are missing out on one of the most beautiful experiences in the world when you can sit with couples like Shikera and April who deeply love Jesus. Their life is about following the footsteps of Jesus. And they happen to be same-sex attracted, and they're married to each other, and they're the most interesting people you'll ever want to meet. And I pastor the coolest church I have ever known in my life, and it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And we still talk about it, and because we know there are people who come every week from different backgrounds who don't know that the truth is, Jane and I don't think of them as our lesbian couple friends. We think of them as our friends. We think of them as people who love Jesus and have one of the coolest couples they're one of the coolest couples we know. And, oh, by the way, oh, yeah, they're lesbians. That's right. I wasn't even thinking about that. That's right. Who cares? Who cares? Thanks for watching if that's you. I hope this helps. I love you. I love you so much.
Oh,
Now, let me ask you
yeah.
something else.
Uh-huh.
You talk about kind of a personal healing journey over the last 9 or 10 years. What does that kind of refer to as far as what you would like to talk about?
No, so I have been sexually assaulted before, and I I will tell you, I talk a lot about God and spirit, but when I was 39 years old, about a month before I turned 40, I was awakened with the words, "It's time to heal for real." Okay. And I didn't know what to think about it because I thought, well, I've went to counseling and I've did this and, started making excuses for things I've done, and then really had to reflect that I only was doing surface level things to heal. And God brought a woman alongside of me who helped me to understand that to heal, you've got to look at the thing that hurts the most and be willing to unpack it, begin to unpack it and start stripping away, deconstructing those things that you told yourself about yourself based on the pain you may have endured. And so that is what I started doing. And I went back to counseling, and this time, not just sitting in a chair and go through the niceties. I was willing to unpack the things that hurt me the most. And the phrase that God gave me was to heal intentionally. And because I think in church, I believed that if I prayed about things, that God would be like a genie and just make it all right. Just snap, say, hey, God, I need this. And it's instantly, it's great. And I've learned beginning then that God hears me, but I've got to do my part. And so I have not only worked on my journey, I've tried to encourage other people to heal intentionally. And I said I wasn't going to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I've got a manuscript I've been working on for years about healing on purpose and intentional healing, because I think people need to know that it's a journey, and it takes courage and wisdom to heal, but it's not going to be instantaneous, but it's going to be profitable.
Cool. I love that. You have an incredible voice. You have a voice that needs to be heard, and you are doing great work, really great work. I hope to hold that book in my hand one day. I'd love it. I'm sure it's going to be so good, so good. Now, are you speaking at Wild Goose this year?
I am.
So what are you speaking about?
So my wife and I actually are co-creating together. That's what they call the speakers at Wild Goose. And so healthy relationships, no trauma, no drama, and things you wouldn't tell your mama is the title of our talk.
That's very good. I'm going to have to start sending you stuff to title for me. I can't title worth a flip. That's great.
Well, I was an English teacher, so
that's right. You think about this. Say it one more time.
Healthy relationships, no trauma, no drama, and things you wouldn't tell your mama.
Oh, my gosh. I hope I'm not teaching the same time y'all are, because I'd love to see that. That sounds really, really, really good. Hey, we're winding down a little bit. Any book that stands out to you that you just say, you know what, and maybe why this would be helpful to someone? Any book that you just say, I recommend this book a lot to people, and you'd like to share just a little bit about it? Anything jump out? So
the book that's coming to me is Bulletproof Faith. It's by Candace Shalou Hodge. I think now she might be Candace Shalou, but Candace is a minister that wrote this book to LGBTQ plus Christians about knowing who you are, knowing that if you have faith, you don't have to dismiss your faith because someone from a platform told you you're lesser. And she goes to the scripture that talks about always give an account for why you believe. And it basically is like you don't have to go into apologetics like some conservative churches, but you have a right to stand on what you believe, and you have to know your boundary line, meaning you have to know when to look at someone and say, you're entitled to what you believe, but I'm not going there with you, and be okay with it.
Like that.
And so that's one book, and it's phenomenal. It's well written. She is a minister, and she was educated at the theological school at Emory Candler. So, but yeah, that's just one of the big ones that really stands out for me to tell someone.
I love
Read
it.
it.
I think I'm going to start suggesting that. It hit me over, and I've said it several times over the last few months. This idea that a young person hears a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old man standing in the pulpit saying things with great conviction and force, and in our brains, we lock that in as if it is from God, God's self.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'm having to say to people now, giving them permission almost to say, you don't have to believe what that man said up there with all that force, because the truth is he might have been a really good man. Maybe he was, but he didn't understand. He did not understand. And you don't have to hold on to those things as the truth. It sounds like that book says that very thing.
It does.
That sounds so good.
It does.
Any lesson you would want to give to your younger self, if you could go back to Shikera that's 12 years old, anything you would tell her that you think would have saved her a little time or a little bit of hurt?
Yeah, that's funny that you asked that, because it makes me think about a book again. It's called Letters to My Younger Self. And I would tell her that what happens to you does not determine who you are. A long time in life, I thought I'm the remnants of pain I've endured, and I've had to dismiss that, because even though pain may shift you, it doesn't define you. And so I would tell myself, hey, dust yourself off, lift your head back up. You're okay. Everything that happened may not have been okay, but you're okay. And where you are is not where you're going. Just remember you're okay.
You are wonderful. I have loved our conversation. I feel like we could talk the rest of the day, but I know you and I both have places we have to go. So thank you. Let's do it again.
Thank you.
Do it again. Write those books, and we're going to keep you front and center and letting people know kind of the people that are a part of our village family. I'm so excited. Thank you, Shikera. So
You're welcome.
And just as I promised, I want to say one more word. If you like the interviews, you like the content, you like the idea of being a part of Everybody Church, the kind of the online arm of the village church, maybe you don't have a church like this anywhere around you, and you want to find out how can you help. You can help by being a financial contributor. That's very, very important. We have tried for years to not ever mention it, and that's been a disservice. We now realize there are people who are saying, we want to help. We want to help. How do we help? Well, you help by following the prompts on the screen. And if you can be a participant, that would be beautiful. You don't have to, but if you can, and monthly support is absolutely the best, because that helps us kind of know how we're going, where we're going. And any comments, anytime you share what you're seeing on the internet, you share it with people, something we've produced, then that's very helpful too. You guys are the best. Thank you for being with us. Blessings to you. Hope you have a great day.